What's up, guys? Welcome to SpawnCast episode 8, and we are featuring Shawn today from RGT85. Shawn, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on.
That's good. That's good, man. Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on your channel for a while because you were kind of sitting at like 15 or 16,000 subs, and then all of a sudden you just like took off, man. Like your sub count went crazy.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy the past I would say month or so. It's just I don't know where they're coming from, but I'm glad they're coming from somewhere. So yeah, it's been great though. It's been fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And of course we have Philip. Philip, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. Excited to be here as always. Excited to be with everyone. Thank you very much for having me back as a regular, as you're contracted to do by YouTube. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's like we signed that with blood on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then of course we have the ever cheerful Evan.
Hey.
So yeah, there's actually been a lot of stuff happening in, I guess, the gaming world this week. But I do want to talk to Shawn about his channel a little bit because I'm a big fan of retro stuff. I don't know how much I really talk about it on the channel, but I am a big fan of the retro stuff. And Shawn, you do a lot of like retro stuff on your channel, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the channel sort of started out because I was doing stuff over on Nintendo Enthusiasts with Jason, and I did a couple retro videos on there, and they never got views. And I was like, okay, these people don't care about it, but I enjoyed making them. And so I told Jason, I was like, everyone at Nintendo Enthusiasts had their own side channel except for me. And I was like, well, I'll try one with mine. And so the channel was originally called Retro Gaming Tube 85. And I remember my buddy Gilly, the kid, was like, you're going to hate that name. And I was like, why? He was like, it's too long. And then like I sort of realized, I was like, yeah, it is too long. So I shortened it to RGT85. Plus I wanted to do some more modern stuff. But yeah, I mean, the primary focus is on retro. Obviously with the Switch, there was a lot of Switch related content on there, but the primary focus, I like to focus on retro stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it looks like you kind of dive into like a lot of the unknown stuff. Also, I saw your video on Saturn games, and I was like, man, nobody knows about Saturn games, so it was pretty cool.
I love the Saturn. I love old school Sega stuff. So, and I know a lot about it because that's what I grew up playing. Like, it's strangely enough, I didn't really like play Super Nintendo games until I was like, probably 19 or 20. So, I grew up with all Sega stuff. So that's sort of my bread and butter. But when I got older, I went back and played all the Super Nintendo stuff just because I had Sega stuff when I was a kid.
Wow, no Super Nintendo at all. I mean, that's impressive. Wow. I
mean, I dabbled in it. Like I had a good buddy who had a Super Nintendo, so I would play it there. But I wouldn't I never played Zelda all the way through. I never played Super Metroid all the way through until I was older. So it was pretty interesting.
Wow, that's a good decision to go back and play it. That's kind of how we play those games, though. Is our good buddy up the street had like some crazy like a 3DO or a Sega Master System. In your case, it was a Super Nintendo. That's interesting.
Yeah,
usually it's the other way around. That's cool though. That's funny. So we'll start off with what we've been playing this week, and I'll jump over to Philip for this one. Philip, what have you been spending your time with this week, man?
Oh man, I've been bouncing around a bunch of different games, mainly on my Switch. I dabbled a little bit on my PS4 with Outlast 2. I've finally been able to play a little bit of that, and I love horror games, so like jumping into that was a lot of fun. And then a little bit of Thumper as well, which was cool. I got a chance to review that, so that was a lot of fun. Thumper's a fun game. I know it's been out for a little while, but the Switch version is insane with the HD Rumble. If you have a Switch and you've played Thumper before, then you should definitely consider getting it on the Switch itself just for the HD Rumble, because the impact is insane. Like it brings tactile feedback to a whole different level. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what I've been checking out. So
very good, very good. I didn't play any of Outlast 2. I'm not good with those horror games, so I don't do well. If it, like I said, can that be in VR also on the PlayStation, or is that only like a VR game on the PC?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's on PSVR, but if it's on Oculus Rift, then I definitely have to check that out, or Vive or whatever. So
I feel like any horror game that comes out pretty much has to be VR now, because that's like the best way to play a horror game. Well, probably the worst way technically, but it's the best experience. Obviously, it's terrifying. That way.
I played Resident Evil 7 like entirely in VR, and it was just an incredible experience. So if you have PSVR, you should definitely check out Resident Evil 7 in that if you haven't yet.
Very good, very good. Shawn, what have you been spending your time with this week, man?
I've been playing a lot of Fire. Well, I played a lot of Fire Emblem Echoes, and I've been playing. I got a copy of Ultra Street Fighter 2 on the Switch to review. So I've been playing that way too much.
Okay, yeah, I thought I saw that you got a copy of Street Fighter 2, so I assumed you were playing that a good bit, mostly because usually you have like a Street Fighter shirt or a Street Fighter hat.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm pretty confident you're a Street Fighter fan. So.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and then just random retro stuff. I've been playing a lot. I'm actually going for a complete 32X collection because everyone's like, you need to have a complete collection of something, and I was like, okay, I'll go with 32X. It's small. And there's only like 3 expensive games. So I've been playing a lot of 32X stuff. It's a fun little system to collect for.
It just looks weird coming off the Genesis.
Yeah, it really does.
Check out Evan this week. I saw you got kind of sad about Street Fighter and you had to return it, but what else have you been up to?
Well, I gave one of my free copies of Eternal Crusade to a friend of mine, so we've still been binge playing that like all week. But then a bunch of my other friends started getting back into things, so I'm kind of going back to Overwatch. But I also wanted to check a couple of the games that we missed, or that I at least missed, because I was kind of waiting to see what people would say about them, like Rainbow Six Siege. Just picked it up. It's actually really enjoyable, and they have a whole new business model with it. For PC specifically, it's like $15 to get it. But you have to unlock things as you go. But the maps and everything are they're all there already. It's pretty fun, pretty awesome time. The Street Fighter 5 thing, apparently it's just terrible on most PCs. A lot of people complaining about it either not launching or crashing after about 5, 10, 15 minutes. It's not good, and it's been out for a while, so I don't know what the hell is going on with that. I really want to play it.
I looked at the system requirements, and they're not high. Like it's not like a really intensive game on a computer. I know 4 was like not even a little intensive, since you could play it on that really crappy laptop you had.
Yeah. Well, the people are saying that the programs that tell you how much frame rate you're getting on your screen, it'll still say 60 even though the game's slowing down. So it's probably something wrong with the engine and how it syncs. There's something going on there.
Yeah. I was gonna say I looked at it. And it didn't look that bad. And I know you have a 770, so it should have been able to play that fine. But that's fine. At least you can get your money back. You know, it's not. I know. Microsoft introduced a refund system similar to Steam, so it's a good thing that's happening now.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna put it towards the Surge because I'm actually really interested in that game. It looks really fantastic, so I wanted to give it a shot.
I keep looking into that. It does look kind of cool. I don't know. I mean, that's $50. I have to look a little more at it to see how it plays, but it looks good at least.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I played actually quite a bit of Injustice 2 this week. It's been pretty fun. It plays well. I have it on the PS4 Pro, but I don't have 4K TV, so I don't really get any of the benefits out of it. But at least it runs really smooth at 60 frames. And it's just a fun game. Mostly I just play it because the story mode's really fun, and I like the DC universe, so it's a good time. That, and I was playing Chris lent me his Neo Geo X to do a video on, so I've been playing that also.
That's was that the new one, the new-ish one, or was that the?
Yeah, well, that's the one that I think it was like 3 years ago came out. It's the one that's like the hybrid.
Nice.
Yeah.
One, yeah. So I have that now too, and he got the full game with like the cartridge and everything for it too. It looks cool. It's been all right. It definitely shows you how much better the Switch is in terms of its ease of use, because that thing is a pain to like go from one to the other. It's not as easy as the Switch, so it really makes you appreciate the switching that the Switch. So. It's definitely not easy. You have to open it up. You have to like push it in just right. The headphone jack, the mini HDMI, and then like the tiny micro USB all have to click in just right. And you're not supposed to push too hard or you break it. It's weird. But I mean, it works, and it has all the classics, like Samurai Showdown, Metal Slug. I was playing most of those. Then a couple others, like I think there's a couple King of Fighters on there too, and then some other random ones I've never heard of. So it's fun though. It's a good time, and the joysticks are the controllers, so it has like full arcade joysticks, which is cool. But it was a good time there. And you know what? Let me stay with Street Fighter here. Now that we've done all this, I kind of want to talk to I guess Shawn about this as well. Now you've been playing Street Fighter 2, right, on the Switch?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, yeah. Now you saw what the price is on it, right? It's like $40.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that is kind of high. And I can kind of argue either one way or the other. So if it gets a little lopsided, I'll kind of go the other way. But I'll let you guys kind of go around here, and I'll start with you, Shawn, since you've played the game. I mean, it's Street Fighter 2, so it's it's something most of us have played. But I'll start with you and just kind of talk about the pricing on that, what your thoughts are.
I mean, the way I see it is this is like, could they have done it digitally? Sure, and they could have done it digitally only, and it probably would have been a little cheaper, but they went the physical route. And the way the Switch is set up, I think the physical and the digital have to be the same price, or there has to be some inclusion. There was something, I remember reading something about that. So is it worth the $40? I mean, to me, it's like saying, well, was Ocarina of Time 3D, worth buying again on the 3DS? Of course it was. It's one of the greatest games in that genre. And to me, Street Fighter 2, whatever incarnation you're playing, is one of the best fighting games in that genre. You could play Street Fighter 2 for a ridiculous amount of time. So yeah, I mean, I have no problems with it being $40. I got a free copy from Nintendo to review. I still have the other copy because it was only digital. I still already have my other copy coming in. And plus, when you factor in things like Amazon and the Best Buy stuff, you get 20% off. So I think my copy through Amazon was like $32. I mean, if you like fighting games and you like old fighting games with modern features like online, the ability to switch the graphics, a couple new modes. Like, the new modes aren't great, but they're fun. They're little diversions. And I didn't expect to get the code for the game because I thought it was going to come through Capcom. So I was fully, I had my copy purchased, months ago. So to me, not a big deal, especially if you like Street Fighter. Plus, I mean, people are like, oh, I wish it was Street Fighter 5. And I'm like, I mean, that game had so many problems when it came out. Like, you would be paying $60. You don't know what you're getting. You don't, I don't know. It's not a big deal to me, but I could see why some people would, be sort of against it. Like, oh, it's an old game or whatever, but it's also a great game. So
that and 5, I believe, was heavily funded by Sony. So I don't think it's going to be coming off the PS4 and PC kind of solid thing there for a while. But they also added, I thought, Violent Ken, so they have a new character in it. And then they also added actually a different mechanic that wasn't originally into. It was like guard breaking.
Yep.
Or something.
And,
so like it's almost a little bit new.
There's Evil Ryu as well.
Yeah.
So you have Evil Ryu, Demon Ken, and then Akuma, if you want to call him a new character. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that like nobody seems to talk about that I actually really dig is the fact that you can use new graphics with old sound, or old graphics with new sound. There's like a big art book of stuff, and you could, like, over 150 pages, you can get nice and close if you like that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nice little additions to it, and it's arguably the greatest 2D fighter ever. So
how do you feel about the Hadouken mode that it has? Do you feel like that's pretty gimmicky?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so gimmicky, but I mean, I still play it. I still mess around with it because there's actually a leveling system in it, and there's different difficulties. But yeah, I mean, it's super gimmicky. It's just it's like motion controls that were added to so many Wii games. But I mean, it is sort of fun. Like, you take the Joy-Cons and you go like this to throw a Hadouken. To do a Dragon Punch, you have like one here, and then you push one out. And then to do a Hurricane Kick, you swing them to the side. It is very gimmicky, but there's blocking, there's super attacks and stuff. It is very silly, but it's a nice little diversion. Like, better to have it than not to have it, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Philip, what do you think about the pricing there, man?
It's hard for me to say because I haven't had a chance to check out any of the new modes, but I really kind of agree with Shawn. I think that Street Fighter 2 is a timeless game, and certain games just kind of deserve to stay, valued at a certain price or whatever. And so I think Street Fighter, even though I can't speak for the new modes, I still think that it is one of the greatest fighting games that has ever, graced this planet. And the fact that it's coming to the Switch, revamped with new modes. I mean, they're trying. It's going to have online. It has new things that you can, like what Shawn said, mix the sounds with the graphics and stuff. So I think that just by not playing it, I would pay the money for it as a Street Fighter fan. And I think that fighting games fans out there don't necessarily have a problem paying for a Street Fighter game at that price. I mean, we're pretty used to it by now, I think, especially if it's like a full-on, remaster of the game. So I'm okay with it.
Okay, very good, very good. So I think the price caught a lot of people off guard because they looked at the 360 version, which is $15, I think, and they're similar, right? They're not like they're different, but they're not like worlds different, right? I mean, it's not like a completely different game either way.
No, I mean they did the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD, I think it was called. I thought it might have came out at 20, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, I just checked the shop now. It was like $14.99. It might have been 20 when it came out. So my first thought when I saw this, when we were playing at the DC event, we were playing the Switch, that was one of the booths set up. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, there's going to be the Nintendo rep there that, to be honestly with you guys, they don't know a lot. They were there with their fact sheets and talking about it. He at least kind of knew Street Fighter. He was like, yeah, I wouldn't expect this to be more than $20. And that's pretty much where I was with it too. I don't expect it to be more than $20. But it comes out, it's $40. They put it physically, that's fine, because I do know there's a higher distribution cost there. If you look at, say, I mean, which one was it? Puyo Puyo Tetris, where it was more expensive to bring it out physically. I get that. It costs money to print these things. It's not cheap. So I understand it there. I would have thought it might have been more like a $30 game personally. And that might have been the roof there. But honestly, if Capcom knows that they have fans that will pay $40 and it's their responsibility to put a game like that out and not lowball it because they can always drop the price later. I think it might be high for Street Fighter 2 only because I own it like 3 or 4 different ways. But if I'm a fan of Street Fighter, it's worth it to me because I'll get, 100 plus hours out of a $40 game, which is a great deal. I do think it's interesting, though, that they priced it at 40 because I looked at that Way of the Hado mode. Eurogamer did a thing on it. And then, of course, we've seen a lot leading up to it. And I noticed it looks like it's the Street Fighter either 4 or 5 engine. I mean, is that what it looks like, Shawn?
Yeah, it's the character model for Ryu is from the Street Fighter 4.
Okay, it is. So it's their fighting engine for the most part, graphics wise, from either Street Fighter 4 or 5, somewhere in there, right? Like it's the engine that runs their fighting games for the most part.
I think so. I mean, the whole thing takes place in like a first-person perspective, and you actually don't move. The characters just sort of drop in. So it could be, but I'm not 100% sure.
Because my thought there was that they put a lot of development time into it, trying to see how well they could get their I want to say their fighting engine on there with the graphics that they run on their fighting game engine. Because I looked at it and it looks very similar to either 4 or 5. 4 or 5 look similar to me. I don't know if it's other people, but I look at it and I say, okay, 4 and 5, maybe they're upgraded some for the PS4, but they look like the same idea. And I looked at it and I said, I wonder if they spent time trying to port their engine over, realize that, yes, it'll work, but we need money back for this dev time. Why don't we put it in as a feature for the new Street Fighter 2 game coming out on the Switch? We'll collect some extra money for that. We know it works now, so we can look into the future, possibly bringing, I don't know, whenever they decide to release the next Street Fighter. When does Street Fighter 5 come out?
Street Fighter 5 came out last year, but I don't know how long like Sony has a stranglehold on that. I don't know if it's timed exclusive or completely exclusive. I think someone mentioned earlier that Sony actually helped fund it, so it would probably have to be like they could probably get around it with like a special version of it or whatnot.
It seems
the special version though, they were very clear that they weren't going to be releasing any of those in like many talks because of how angry everyone was with the prior releases of the game. So I don't know what they're going to do with it. And the trick is, from what it sounds like, 5, they want to stick around for a while to try to like generate more of the esport hype with it on one title as opposed to just releasing constantly. And I mean, 4 had a really long lifespan anyway. So
okay.
5's probably going to be stuck where it is now, just expanding in those systems for a while before maybe we'd be seeing a one down the road like a 6 or something that then might come to other consoles. Who knows at that point, though?
Maybe it's future planning for them. Maybe they know now that their engine can run on it, and they're going to look towards it. Maybe whenever they do Street Fighter 6, even if it's like years down the road, they at least know it would run on the Switch. Because remember, Capcom was the company that came to Nintendo and said, "You need more RAM in this system, or we can't run our engines on it." And I feel like Street Fighter might have been one of those engines they're talking about. Also, the other one might have been their Resident Evil engine, because that is like heavily speculated and rumored that it's running on the Switch now as we speak in testing. So there's a couple things there. It's the $40 tag just seems a little high for me, but like I said, I can see how fans of Street Fighter will pay it and will enjoy it. So that's fine. And like you said, Shawn, $32 if you have Amazon Prime or Best Buy's Gamer Club card. So that, like I said, it makes sense to a point. I probably won't buy it, but I have other stuff I'm interested in down the road. So mostly Disgaea. I'll be getting Disgaea. So
yeah, that looks really good.
I've been playing Disgaea for a long time. So I have PS2 days. So I'm excited for it. And honestly, if anybody out there is looking at it, you don't have to have played any of the other ones to play Disgaea 5. It is like buying a Final Fantasy. So look into that.
That's right. I've never played any of them, and I'm actually playing Disgaea 5 on the Switch now, and totally fine with it. A lot of fun. You don't need to know any of the backstory. It's a totally new one. So,
did
you totally cut out in that. Can you say that again?
I said, did you get on the Japanese eShop?
Oh yeah. I got it on the Japanese eShop a couple months ago. I think it was almost 2 months ago now. So I've been playing it like on and off from that point on, and it's just such a gigantic game. You could dive in there for hundreds of hours. I mean, I don't need to tell you that, you've played it before, but having it on the Switch is so cool. Like being able to take it portably. So I think it's going to be really popular. If you're looking for a nice meaty like RPG, then definitely think about Disgaea, because it's going to take up a lot of your time.
Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I didn't know if they had already sent out codes or anything for it. That's why I was asking.
Oh no. Yeah. I don't.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Good. Okay. Good.
I do know though that some game stores are selling it early. There's like a local one in my area that has like hard copies early. So.
Oh really? Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. It comes out on like the 23rd, right? It's Tuesday.
Yeah, they had it like 3 days ago. So I don't know, if you know a place that gets things early, then check it out. Maybe they'll have it.
Walmart, 7-Eleven used to be stupid and sell them early.
Yeah.
I have to know somebody on the inside at 7-Eleven. There is somebody I know on the inside. That's why I got Injustice 2 a day early. But not because the company sent it to me. Although they probably should have, so I wouldn't have played it the day early. Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw a lot of the stuff around Destiny 2. I don't know if a lot of you guys play Destiny at all. Philip, maybe you did?
You have the original Destiny?
Yes, yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, I played the crap out of that game.
Shawn, did you play any Destiny?
I did not.
Okay, you didn't. And I know Evan didn't, because he just plays on the PC. Although Destiny 2 may somewhat interest him because now it's on the PC.
Kind of. It's still not like heavily interesting. I mean, you remember the whole conversation we had originally when Destiny 1 was announced, that Bungie, when leaving Microsoft, was like, yay, now we're on to big and better things. We won't do another Halo. Then they made a Halo MMO.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, it just didn't work out. But I mean, Destiny at its core, it's kind of the loot grind with a little bit of dungeon running in FPS, that's the genre I really work with the best, the accuracy, knowing where to be at certain times. So I'm probably going to play it. I could easily see that, but like, I'm not like overly excited. It's not really doing anything new. And so far, all I've heard in the news about it is that everything they've shown to everyone is basically Destiny 1. And that's it. All they've talked about is the new stuff, but they've shown none of it to any of the people at the events. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I mean, it could be interesting either way, especially since Blizzard's going to be carrying it. I guess Activision told Blizzard they were supposed to be doing it on Battle.net or something. I don't know, but
it's going to be over. It's going to be over on Battle.net, which I assume is just because Activision and Blizzard are basically the same company, so they don't care.
I think Blizzard's putting a lot more work into the esports side of things for competitive. And if the Battle.net platform works really well for it, and I think they might want to see if Destiny 2 can kind of go that route a little bit, then maybe that's why they're doing it.
Let me hit you with this, with Destiny 2. They had a bunch of interviews, specifically at the event. IGN did a very good job, by the way, of pressing these guys. And they got a lot of info out that probably should not have been said in interviews. One, they revealed that there would be no dedicated servers at all. So none. Which I think is a big blow to competitive gaming, because dedicated servers obviously make it so not one person is a host, which means that person has 0 ping basically, and everyone else is connecting to them and then sending information back to you. And they said that all consoles will be 30 frames, but the PC will be uncapped. So it seems like the PC is going to be the version to get. Evan, I mean, would dedicated servers pretty much wipe the thought of competitive gaming, Evan?
Not necessarily. I mean, down the road, they don't need dedicated servers as much if they have like a centralized type system anyway that you can suddenly join to. But if the trick with that game is more like a localized thing, they could do local tournaments easy. That wouldn't be a problem. But again, the other issue is, I guess Blizzard changes their directions with a lot of their stuff. So if that's on battle.net, maybe Blizzard might eventually roll into dedicated servers. But with the frame cap though, for the interview the talk I was listening to earlier, the guy said he played it mostly on console because that's where he started with the game. But then when there was like a whole separate room that was kind of like almost Hobbit-like, you'd go in, it's all dark and just a bunch of computers and things. He checked all those screens and he was like, it was ungodly realistic at the extremely high frame rates. He was so concerned about like the lower frame rates on consoles by comparison.
So
it was nuts.
Well, they also talked about a lot of features for the PC, 21:9, field of view changing, a lot of stuff. But then they also talked about, all right, so the IGN person who was interviewing the host pressed them about the Nintendo Switch. Shawn, did you see any of this?
Yeah, I saw that.
I think everybody saw it because everybody complained. Everybody went on YouTube and made a video about this, right? I think everybody did.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and Philip, did you see this also?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so essentially what he tries to say is that, well, first he tries to ease into the situation, right? He says, I own a Switch, though. I have it right here. Don't get mad at me. And talks about Breath of the Wild. But then he goes on to say that it's unrealistic to think that the Destiny 2 would be on the Switch because the Switch is a portable system and Destiny is an online-only game. You need to connect to their servers to play it. So in their mind, the Switch will never get Destiny 2. This is a developer talking about it. This is not Activision who is talking about this. But a developer is saying, we don't have a single player. It won't be on the Switch. What do you guys think exactly here, though? I'm curious.
Well, I mean, Splatoon 2 is coming out, and yeah, it has a single player, but I don't really think anyone plays, single player on it. It's mostly an online game. It's just, to me, it's just PR. If they're saying it's a portable system, but it's really not. Like, I'd probably play my system more as a home console than a portable. The portable is just an option. It's just an extra bonus thing. So, I mean, it doesn't really bother me. The first Destiny didn't really look that attractive to me. The second one, I'm sure, won't be very attractive to me. But I know there's a lot of people that want games like that and Overwatch. At the end of the day, it's a Western developer. The Western developer cares about one thing and one thing only, and that is console sales. If a calculator came out today that started selling like hotcakes, that was pretty much an NES inside of a calculator, you bet your ass they would put Destiny on that thing because they just want to sell units. So, the Switch is still early. It's been selling really well. That could always change. They say one thing now, but if the system sales continue, they would always change their tune. So I don't know. I always take what Western developers say with a grain of salt because, money talks.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Money definitely does talk. Let me ask Philip, what do you think about his statements for the Switch?
Yeah, I mean, isn't Dragon Quest X coming to the Switch pretty soon?
I was hoping no one would say that. I was going to say that. Yeah, that's
sorry. Yeah, that's
right.
a full-on MMO game. I mean, there's no doubt that, the Switch can totally handle online-only games. And Destiny, yes, it's an online-only game, but it's also one of the most popular games in the world right now. And I don't see a reason why we can't get a Switch version eventually sometime down the line. And I think that you hit it on the mark when you said this is a developer saying this. It's not Activision. Like, I think that is people need to understand that, because Activision at any point could be like, well, actually, that we think otherwise. So, he doesn't maybe know all the details, and maybe, I'm just hoping out for wishful thinking or whatever. But I do think that eventually we will see Destiny come to the Switch. Maybe not this year, maybe not alongside the other consoles, but I think we might see it maybe at the end of next year. So,
and someone in the chat made a good point. Payday 2,
right?
Payday 2 is that's an online game, so
you can play single player in that though.
It's
completely
garbage in single player, but you can
yeah.
play it.
Yeah, you can play it. Yeah, you don't have to go online for it.
Okay.
It's way more fun online though with other people by far.
I was like the other night watching YouTube videos on my Switch for the first time, just checking that out. And I watched the Destiny 2 gameplay video, and I was just like, this feels so right. Like holding my Switch, just like, why can't this happen? This needs to happen. Why can't I just loot on my Switch?
I will say though, the Wi-Fi connection on the Switch isn't the best, although I don't think that should keep Destiny 2 from being there because you have LAN adapters. Evan, what do you think about their remarks about how a portable unit can't have an online-only game, essentially?
I mean, if it's that specific remark, it's obviously being disproven. Even back with the 3DS, I think I played Phantasy Star, the online one, with a bunch of my friends constantly.
that was on the DS.
Yeah.
Phantasy Star Zero. I love that game.
Yeah, so like it's already been disproven that can't happen. So I don't know why he was saying that specifically. He was probably trying to speak more towards the technological difficulty of being able to do it the way they might want to do it. Because I mean, if it comes out on the Switch, does that stick everyone in that community on the Switch in their own servers? Can they only do their own thing, or are they trying to?
It's split up between all of them.
Yeah, but the eventuality is, I'd really hope that it all kind of pulls together between all the consoles, but that probably won't happen.
That's a dream. That's a dream we've been waiting for a long time, Evan.
Oh God, it would be so fun.
Poke Madness made a pretty. Poke Madness in the chat, he made a pretty good point, saying that once we get Rainway, maybe we can just stream Destiny from the PC onto our Switches if it tends to work out well.
It could happen. So. Okay, so this is a big reason why you don't let developers take these kind of interviews, because IGN knows that they have a developer cornered here and they can just press them for these things. If a PR person made this statement, they would have probably been fired or at least suspended like tomorrow because this is something that they will probably end up going back on down the road if, like Shawn said, the Switch does well, which it looks like it will do well. If this time next year there's 12 million Switches out there, Destiny is going to figure out how to release one of their 20 full-priced expansions for the system, because next year, like I said, we'll probably be buying, I don't know what, the Forgotten King or something. Is it Taken King? But some other expansion that costs full price if you want to go buy it in stores, and maybe we just go buy it on a Switch if we want it on the Switch. But it's a bad example, definitely, because like you said, Philip, Dragon Quest X is going to be on the Switch. It's online only. I do think that things like Nintendo's online plan may be kind of tripping Activision up right now, because no one knows what Nintendo's going to do with their online service right now, and we're expected to pay for it in August or September, sometime in the fall. So I hope in the next couple weeks at E3 we find out what this online service is. I feel like because it's an online only game right now, Activision is just they're cautiously optimistic. They want to see what this online application is before they dive in beforehand, because the worst case is they start developing for it and then they realize they can't have Destiny be Destiny on the Switch with the online service provided to them. So honestly, I don't think it's a big deal. I really don't think most of the people who have the Switch don't have access to another system as well if they want Destiny. I do think the Switch is a great partner system, like I've said before, whether you have a PC or you have a PS4 or an Xbox One. The Switch is an awesome system to have with another system as well, because you're going to get different games on the Switch that just won't be on the PS4 or the Xbox One, and vice versa. So I don't think it's a big deal. Most people are going to buy Destiny, probably weren't going to buy it on the Switch right now. Maybe next year it's different when there's more Switches out of there. So, but Philip, you started talking about Rainway, man.
Yeah.
And this is interesting. This is interesting. Did you guys see the Reddit AMA that happened?
Yes, I did.
Very good, very good. There were some interesting things in there, actually. Philip, did you want to run down the AMA with us?
Yeah, sure. I don't have it pulled up or anything like that, but I can definitely comment on some questions. I thought that there was a lot of weird things happening, a lot of interesting things being said by the developers. It's a lot of stuff that was like really not on, or really kind of unclear and a little contradictory of itself. So I don't know. Do you have any example questions you can throw out there?
I can pull some up. The one that was really interesting to me though was that it will be not only local, but it'll also be through the internet. So if you're at work, you can stream from your PC to your Switch.
Right. Yes, that looked awesome. That's going to be a huge feature, which is basically what Remote Play has for the PS4, right? So you can, if you have a certain network provider, right?
Whereas obviously a PC is going to be the choice is going to be a lot more diverse, and the performance should be better as well. Obviously, that was in there. You're absolutely right. But that was the most interesting. They even shared a video, because I've been pretty skeptical of this whole situation with Nintendo, but they at least did share a video of it actually working. Like he was streaming from like 100 miles away or something like that, and it was working on his computer in his browser. Apparently, you just open a browser and it'll work. So, what do you think about that, Shawn?
It's very interesting. I remember there was a service called, I want to say it was called On Live, where it was like a streaming thing where essentially you could play like AAA games on anything that had a web browser. I remember I had this crappy $200 netbook, and I was playing like Batman Arkham City on it because it would go through this service. That service ended up getting bought out. So, I mean, it is within the realm of possibility. I could see a lot of legal hurdles, maybe potentially. But I don't know. It would be very interesting. And the Switch, out of all the systems, of course, would be the one to benefit the most because, you know, you can take it with you. And if it gives you the option to take it with you and stream, you know, that's very interesting. So I don't know. I'm skeptical of it, you know, of how well it will actually work, you know, but there's definitely a lot of potential with it.
Oh, absolutely. There definitely is. But Evan, would you use the Switch like that through Rainway if you're like away from your computer and you could play it on your Switch?
If it's fast enough, I could see myself doing that. I don't know though. I get the need to do it, but I guess if like I'm at work or something, maybe as long as there's no latency issue, because I do remember On Live, I think John, you and me played with it. Someone brought in a controller or something that one time for work.
I remember I signed up for the service, just signed up for it. You can just use like your mouse and keyboard if you wanted to. And we tried playing, I think it was Crisis 2.
We played Homefront, I think, at the store, and you could very clearly feel the input lag between like you doing something and it actually happening. And I couldn't stand that. That would be the most annoying feeling in the world, just trying to do it. I'd rather just wait. But if they're achieving good things with it, if it feels almost 1-to-1 or even just really close to that, then that's fantastic.
Well, I think they're quoting 20 millisecond lag, input lag back and forth. That's before you say add your own connection in. So you could be dealing with like 100 to 150 ping, which you would feel in like Twitch games, like a fighter, like a Street Fighter, for example, but you may not feel in an RPG like at all.
Yeah, so it would probably limit it down to, I guess, turn-based RPGs, actions, and games that don't require a lot of like timing. So, I mean, I guess for that, maybe, but until it reaches that point where it's so insanely fast, which with our country's internet will probably never happen. So,
our internet sucks here. As you can see, I can't stream to Twitch and here at the same time.
Yeah.
It's that's just Comcast for you. Unfortunately, I'm stuck with Comcast. So, but Rainway looks good. I am honestly at this point shocked that Nintendo is even talking to them. It's shocking. Let me ask you guys, do you think that Rainway could potentially hurt Nintendo's system by providing people with other ways to play games that Nintendo can't monetize?
Well, definitely. If you have an emulation system set up somewhere else, and when they start releasing that console setup, unless they add extra things to it.
Well, I'm also thinking of that, yeah, but I'm also thinking of things like, let's say a game like, let's just take NBA 2K18 that we know is coming out on all systems, and the best version, say, is on the PC, and you want the visuals, you want the frame rate, you want everything, and would you then buy it on the PC and just play it on your Switch occasionally when you're around the house and not buy it on the Switch?
If it worked really well, then yes. Like if you could stream pretty flawlessly around your house or whatever, I would do that. I would do that all the time. But I don't think it's going to work very well. I mean, I think it's going to work well. I don't think it's going to work well enough for me to say I'm just going to get this game on my PC and every possible game on my PC and just stream it to my Switch, even though there's a Switch version already. Because I don't know. I feel like I've done that before with other games. And it just always comes down to I'd rather just play a game that's like inside of my system than streaming it from somewhere, because 9 times out of 10, it's just going to be a better experience.
Right. But I mean, Nintendo really needs to deal with hypotheticals here. Like, what's the worst case scenario if we allow them on here? The worst case scenario is that it works flawlessly and they take sales from the eShop store, whether it is through, like Evan was saying, you can stream Mario World from your PC that you have downloaded on an emulator. Or even maybe, I don't know, like a 2K18, or maybe Xenoverse 2 comes out. The better version will be on the PC graphically and frame rate wise. Maybe you get it on there and just stream it with Rainway. So that's where it gets interesting.
That's true. Very, very true. I don't know. It does seem like it's a promising app. Like they're and by that I mean they're actually promising a lot of stuff. Like the actual mapping of the controller for the Switch is supposed to be like running off of an Xbox controller, and you can like remap all of the buttons and personalize it the way you would expect to do on pretty much any PC game. And it says that it actually, like, for those of you guys still not sure, you play your own PC games. It like finds the games that you have in your Steam account and your like Origin account, and I'm sure your Blizzard account, if that's going to work too. So yeah, I don't know. I think that the beta is going to tell us a lot, but obviously it's a beta, like, so we don't know how the final one's going to run, but hopefully it gets through, and I'm excited to see it pop up on the eShop,
It's going to be free too. It's not going to cost any money.
Yeah. So.
Which is shocking. Like I feel like they're leaving a lot of money on the table there, but they did say they're going to try to monetize it through other means, which may mean like sales or something through it. Like maybe if you buy a game through their app, you get it on your Steam account, but you get a percentage. I don't know how they're going to do that. They were talking about no ads. So some other way. I don't know. I'm not really sure how they would go about monetizing that with no ads, no upfront cost.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something down the line where they offered like some sort of streaming rental service. So you could just rent a game that you don't necessarily own and just stream that if they get the tech down right.
That I could see it. That at least makes some sense. I get that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something that kind of took over the Nintendo community this week. That was the ARMS Nintendo Direct. This was pretty interesting because it showed off a lot. And you know what? I'm actually gonna let Shawn take the reins here for this one, and kind of tell us what he thought about the Nintendo Direct.
I mean, ARMS in general is actually a very interesting game to me because when we were watching, Jason and I were live streaming the Nintendo presentation, basically, when they first unveiled the system and showed whatever, and they kept showing this ARMS game, and I'm like, dude, I'm tired of this ARMS game. Get it off the screen. It looks stupid.
That's interesting because you're a fighting game fan. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I couldn't stand it. It looked so dumb to me. I was like, this looks terrible. Go away. And then they kept showing a little bit more, and I was like, okay. Then they showed a little bit more, and I was like, okay. And now I'm like super into it. I'm like, okay, this looks amazing. It's so unique and different, and just the amount of different modes and all sorts of stuff. ARMS is going to be what Splatoon was to the Wii U, in terms of nobody thinks it's going to be that successful, but it's going to be successful as hell. And it's very interesting, a brand new IP, and I really like it now. I think it looks awesome. Like, I can't wait to play it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to create new intellectual properties in this day and age. You see, like, somehow they figured it out with Horizon Zero Dawn, and I think they figured it out with ARMS also. Philip, what did you think about the ARMS Direct, man?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I thought that we finally got to see like why ARMS is going to be worth $60. All the new modes look really interesting. They went a little bit more out there than I thought that they would with them. Like, I didn't expect to see like a basketball thing or volleyball and stuff like that, but I'm really liking what I see. And then the new characters, of course, like some of them leaked. Was it Helix that leaked or another one?
Oh, this is hilarious. They had you mean the ones that the ones that leaked ahead of the direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Switch Force being Switch Force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they unfortunately for them, I guess, leaked this ahead of time. I don't know if I guess people had access to it ahead of time. I wasn't aware of this.
I think there was like some sort of event that went on for like media or something like that people got invited to. So
that makes sense. Yeah, they leaked ahead of time, which probably isn't good.
Yeah, I can't imagine Nintendo being
go
happy
on,
about that.
Go on, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that I had a similar reaction to Shawn. I wasn't as thrilled with ARMS when I first saw it. I stayed optimistic the whole time, but then once I actually played it at the Switch event a couple months ago in San Francisco, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like, I could see what they were trying to do. I could see the depth of it, but I could also see how like it's easy to just jump into and start flailing your arms around and doing some damage. So it's a game that you could essentially play with someone who's playing for the first time, but you could also like have a really like, crazy sort of like technical match with somebody who knows what they're doing as well, if you know what you're doing. So I think that it does have a lot of potential, and I totally think that it is going to be sort of the underdog smash hit of the Switch in a way that Splatoon was for the Wii U. But I also think that Splatoon 2 is going to be pretty big as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, sure. Evan. Now, Evan's interesting on this because obviously Evan's a PC gamer here mostly, but I'm curious what your take is on ARMS, Evan.
I watched the direct when you were running it because I actually had time that day, which was fantastic. It's an interesting game. The trick was up until that point, everyone's been saying it's a fighter, which I get. It looks like everyone's punching each other. But when I watched the video for it, it felt more kind of like how the older Neo Geo games we used to play, John, like Windjammers, like the technicality of it.
Windjammer's coming back, by the way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But the player versus player aspect of it, yeah, you're punching each other, but then there's that element of like knowledge of arcing and positioning and stuff that it's not really about combos as much as it's about using the tools you have in that moment at the right time, which really felt great for those older Neo Geo games we used to play and love. So it feels more like that to me than what everyone's been saying is like, oh, it's just a fighter. So that makes it interesting to me, I think. The only problem I have is, I guess, when they talked about the arcade type system in it, where you get new fists to use, and then if you get an equivalent fist, you get more damage. Did they say anything? I don't know if I caught that. Did they say anything about that rolling into the player versus player stuff? Because that would be kind of crappy to give more damage to the people who've been playing longer.
Well, they're gonna have a ranked mode. I have a feeling if you play ranked mode, it's probably like level across the board. I think that mode is probably for more like the party modes or the social play or anything like that. I have a feeling it won't be for the like the rank. There's no way you're going to walk into, if they want to be competitive, you're not going to walk into like Evo with a guy who's maxed out. I mean, you're going to expect other people to as well, but you get what I'm saying, because then there's different levels of play there. I assume it'll be straight across the board.
Yeah, hopefully that definitely sticks that way. But it's interesting. All the modes, all the functions, all the mini games. The mini games are definitely amazing to me. I thought those were awesome.
What a creative idea, right?
Yeah.
I am actually a lot more excited about ARMS than I thought I would be. I made a video about it, and it got a lot of feedback, but I was shocked, honestly, at how much content they jammed in there. I was very concerned because, keep in mind, this game is out in less than a month now. It's out in a month, and we didn't know anything really about it up until what, a couple days ago then. But now we know all this stuff. I'm just going to run down some of the really cool stuff for you guys that you've obviously saw. Free DLC. You don't have to pay for DLC, apparently. They're going to add stuff and you just get it. 20 people in a lobby. 20 people. You can do split screen up to 4 people on the same screen playing, which is insane. Or if you go over to someone's house, obviously you could technically use one Joy-Con, although they did say that's not the best way to play it. So I would recommend maybe getting an extra set of Joy-Cons and just doing straight motion controls. 20 people, 60 frames per second, by the way. It's a 60 frames per second, 1080p game. Same people doing Mario Kart are making this, and they are very talented. Now, when it drops down, Eurogamer did a whole thing with Digital Foundry where it does this weird alternating refresh rate. So, like, half the screen refreshes and the other half does. So it cuts down to 30, but technically the whole screen is still 60 frames. It's very interesting. But overall, they show us some new characters, which, by the way, I think the robot, policeman, and the dog are probably the most creative one, because technically there's 2 people there, so they had to figure out a way to balance basically 2-on-1. And overall, the game took me by surprise, and it is probably going to be their next big IP, like Shawn was saying, that could compete with like how Splatoon 1 had that effect on the Wii U. We could see ARMS. Well, we could be excited for ARMS 2, like 4 years from now, because it's that big of a game.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be something really. I mean, when you look at it, what is there like it? Splatoon. Yeah, it's a shooter, but it's a very unique shooter, and that's what made it popular. That's what made people like it. And this is sort of in that similar vein. It's technically kind of a fighter, but there's just like tons of extra stuff, tons of layers of depth and whatnot. It's very exciting. I can't wait to play it.
What really like piques my interest about it is people who were initially turned off by the motion controls say like now after having like a lot of time with it at that press event are saying that like they really can't even picture playing without it anymore.
But we were talking to Philip. You and I were talking about that like weeks ago because we played it at the events and it was great. The motion controls were fine.
Right. Yeah. I thought that they were great too. I just feel like I would get tired, like, after playing for an hour or something like that. So I do hope that the traditional controls like work as well. If you just want to like, snap the Joy-Cons back on and go into handheld mode. So we'll see though. They say that you're more accurate with the motion controls.
Well, it's easier, I think, to do things like the hooks and you turn your punches. I just think there's a lot of stuff that's hard to do on what is essentially a 2D controller, 2D plane. You don't have like these hooks and uppercuts and stuff you can do. And honestly, I talked about it before. I think it looks like it's just going to be more fun. If you're not going to be competitive with it, it looks like it'll just be more fun with motion controls because you can't win like you could in Wii Boxing where you just go like this forever. That does not look to be the case here. It looks like you actually have to, like Evan said, plan your moves out before you do them, or at least have that mind game with the person across from you. So I like the idea of that. And Evan, you could probably test this. That's how you make a good competitive esports game if there are mind games that are involved with it.
Well, yeah, definitely. It's still like I said, I guess one podcast ago, it is going to come down to who wants to fund the tournaments, and it's going to come down to whether or not the people who are professional at it actually think that, like you, that the Joy-Cons work, or if they all go with the regular controller, if that feels well as how they use it. So it'll be interesting to see.
Let me ask you this, Evan. If somebody shows up to a tournament, do you think it has to be the same across the board? Like everyone has to use controllers or everyone has to use motion controls? Or can somebody show up, use motion controls, and be comfortable with the person across them just using a controller and vice versa? The
community usually determines that, which is why at most like Street Fighter things, you'll see fight sticks, you'll see regular controllers, you'll see all that stuff. So it'll come down to what the community feels, and I imagine in this game they'll feel that both will be perfectly fine. Not like how you remember Tatsunoko versus Capcom, if you use the Wiimote, you had like the infinite combos, it would just string for you. But if you used the classic controller, you had to actually know the combos. Like that's out. Like they definitely force you to use not the Wiimote for that game. So this one, as long as both feel fine, the community will probably be okay with it.
Okay, very good, very good. So, I guess we can kind of talk a little bit about E3 because it's like a month away, right? Or less than that, actually. It's like 3 weeks away or something like that because it starts on the 11th, I think, because Microsoft's going to kind of start things off with their Scorpio reveal on Sunday, and then it's going to kind of snowball from there. We do know PlayStation will be Monday, and I think Nintendo is Tuesday. So let me ask you guys, we had this, did you guys see the whole thing with Scalebound this past week? I think that was 2 days ago, where they kind of renewed the trademark.
Yeah, I think it was just to keep. I read something, basically poo-pooing on the fact that Microsoft might be trying to like revive it or something.
Yeah, they're probably not reviving it, more than likely. I talked about this in the video, but it looks like they at least renewed it with hopes of doing something with it eventually, whether it's selling it or just honestly something to do is just keep it from somebody else, because without the trademark, someone could make a completely different game and call it Scalebound is right. What's happening here. So they want to keep that off, but it's still, now we know Phantom Dust is here. Phantom Dust is free, by the way. I don't know did you download it, Philip?
I never downloaded it.
Okay.
No, I didn't get a chance.
Okay, go download it. That was one of their big things that they were talking about, right? That is not out yet. Halo 6 will not be at E3. Phantom Dust is free. You can get it. That was great fan service. I'm very happy about that. But now everyone's kind of looking at Microsoft. They're going to show up with Scorpio, but what are they going to show up there with other than Scorpio? Because, again, I've saw this before. Hardware is sold with games. I'm still not sure what they do here because now we know Halo 6 will not be there. And now we know Phantom Dust was just kind of almost a throwaway game to them because it's free with microtransactions. It's not going to be the big Phantom Dust that I guess people were hoping it'd be. So I'm not sure now. I don't know if you guys have any ideas or if Shawn, you have any ideas for Microsoft because it does not look very good right now.
No, they're gonna go. They're gonna go out there and be like, "This is the most powerful system and the best way to play your third-party multi-plats." And people are gonna be like, "Okay, where are the games?" Well, next year we'll have games for it. Like, I don't know. Microsoft is just—they're in such a weird position right now, and I don't understand why people feel like they're gonna have all these, exclusive announcements and stuff. And it's just like, you just look at their lead into E3, like how small their little area is and stuff. Like they're not going to be doing much. Their whole focus is going to be on the Scorpio, which I feel is very stupid. But it is what it is. And that's what they're going for.
Yeah, nothing. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand what their thought process is because you need games to sell a system. Otherwise you're selling a PC.
Yeah, I just don't they have Crackdown 3, right?
There is that, but we still haven't seen much about this. I mean, this is the same thing, guys, that happened with Scalebound, leading up to Scalebound. They said everything was great, it was working well, and then out of nowhere it gets canceled. Crackdown 3 is literally following what happened to Scalebound. If they don't show it at E3, I'm concerned that Crackdown 3 is canceled. And because remember, that was the big thing about that is no matter what they do here, Crackdown 3 won't live up to the hype because remember their big thing when they first showed Crackdown 3 was that it's going to use the power of the cloud to do physics rendering.
Yeah, server-side physics for multiplayer.
Do you think that's still happening? I don't think that's happening. And what happens when they show up with a completely different game and it's not Crackdown 3 that everyone was hoping would be promised to them? Does everyone just accept that and move on, and then Crackdown comes out and it's like a game that reviewers call a 6 out of 10 with broken promises?
I don't know. They've screwed the pooch since day one with this system. It's just been so strange to me. I don't know, but no, I don't think Crackdown 3 is going to be anything like they first promised. They have Crackdown 3. They've got that pirate game, Sea of Thieves.
That game actually looks pretty good, though. That's going to be a PC. That's going to be a PC.
Right. Well,
I'm playing it on PC.
Everything that Microsoft puts out on the Xbox One is on PC, except for Sunset Overdrive. It's just I don't know what they're doing.
They have Cuphead too, which actually looks pretty cool also, but
where has that been? Cuphead should have been came out.
Yeah, it should have.
What's going on with that? There's way too much weird stuff going on, and I think it's just going to get even weirder at E3.
Yeah, they seriously need to show up with 3 good exclusives at E3. Or there's going to be a problem, I think, going forward. And I've talked about this before. I think there's a budget constraint somewhere at Microsoft because they're producing this very powerful system that will not sell well. I don't see how it's going to sell well. And instead, they're not spending the money on games. They're spending on that piece of hardware that realistically will do well. But why don't you just get a PC instead? I don't know. It's confusing to me. Now, what exclusive do you think Microsoft could get? To show up to the big dance at E3 with? What could they show up there with?
A Halo spinoff?
But they said no Halo. They did say there's gonna be a little surprise from 343. We talked about it before. I think it's gonna be the Halo Wars 2 DLC, probably the story mode DLC. I know. I talked about it before, saying that they should actually open their wallets and buy Bayonetta 3 for the system. But will that happen? Probably not. What do you think?
I don't know. There's not. Okay, I'll just take a shot in the dark. Maybe they're doing something with Sega, and that's this whole Sega thing, all this crazy Sega stuff that's going on, rebranding and
Sega Forever, yeah, Sega Forever, yep.
And then there was another thing today. Just maybe they're partnering with Sega and you're going to get Virtua Fighter and Shining Force and Phantasy Star and Streets of Rage and all those great franchises that Sega forgot. Or maybe Microsoft is just going to go the way of Sega and leave hardware soon.
But then they don't have games to really fall back on. They have what they would probably do is just develop for Windows. Like Halo would become a Windows exclusive, and then they'll sell it through their Windows store. Everyone will get mad. Eventually, it comes to Steam. It'll just follow the Quantum Break timeline, where it starts there and then it moves to Steam. And I don't know. I mean, Microsoft technically they don't have to produce the Xbox. In fact, like I said before, investors don't want them to produce the Xbox. It's a waste of money to them because Windows that's where the money is. They could make games, put it on Windows, and they would sell fine. So it's interesting to think that.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at the three companies, Nintendo is video games. They dabble in other things, but they're video games. Sony's most profitable division is video games. Everything else, TVs, computers.
Actually, you might be a little surprised. Their most profitable thing right now is insurance.
Really?
Isn't that crazy, right? It's the weirdest thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's insurance. They have an entire insurance company and division in Japan, and because insurance is such a scam, it is. They make a ton of money from it.
Huh.
I know, right? Isn't that weird?
But gaming does well for Sony.
Yes.
And then you have Microsoft, whose weakest division that investors have been saying for years now that they don't like is gaming. So I don't know. I think they're the odd horse out here, and I think. E3 is going to be very telling for Microsoft. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but it'll be very telling.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Fortunately they get theirs out of the way Sunday right away, pretty much. So we'll know instantly what's happening with Microsoft, good or bad. I just hope that they show up there. Forza will be there. Their racing game will be there. Halo will not. Crackdown, I assume, will be. But I don't know what else. Maybe they do have something up their sleeve. What do you think, Philip? Is this like it for Microsoft? Do they need to really come to the table with something?
I hope not. I mean, they definitely need to show up with something. I mean, maybe State of Decay 2 will be like shown off full blast on the Scorpio. But that again is also a PC game as well, right? Like you can get that. So why would you get a Scorpio just for that?
PC, yep.
I'd look at buying a GTX 1080 for $500 or 1080 Ti instead of a Scorpio.
Right. Look, I mean, you know what's scary to me is I love Xbox. I gamed so hard on my Microsoft consoles. Yeah, I had every single one of them, guys. And I started out when they announced Scorpio, I started out as a huge cheerleader for it. And now I'm just like, I don't know anymore. Like, I really don't know if I'm going to get one anymore unless they show me something at E3 that really wows me. Like, there's no reason, like it is a third-party machine, but we have a PS4 for that, and I feel bad for anyone who just has an Xbox right now and doesn't have a PS4, and that sucks. Like, it hurts to say that because I'm like, I've always been more of an Xbox guy, to tell you the truth. So
people are saying this in the chat. Okay, so what happened was this is interesting. I saw this. This was Rich over Review Tech talked about this. There was a tweet that went out. Basically, it said that Microsoft is not going to do any parity at this point between the Xbox and the Scorpio for things like frame rate, obviously resolution. That's pretty obvious. But seeing more about frame rate, and the idea here is what he's saying is there's a chance that they move to exclusivity for Scorpio games. So a game comes out and it's exclusive to the Scorpio. And that's interesting because that was not their original plan. Do you guys think that Scorpio exclusive games are coming?
Why? I mean, you're gonna segue. Here's the thing. The last time a company tried this was the almighty Nintendo with their 3DS line, and they made one new 3DS exclusive game. There was one indie game, The Binding of Isaac, and then there was one game that ran substantially better, which was Hyrule Warriors. Now, why did Nintendo stop doing those? Because you're segmenting your market. Like that would be terrible. Like it makes the most sense, but if you do that, what you're basically saying is this is a successor to the Xbox One. This will have exclusive games for it. You need to buy it. And I don't think Xbox One owners, in 2017 are going to be like, yes, finally, we got a new system because there were so many great exclusives on the old one. Like, oh man, should they do it? Maybe, because what's the point of having all this power just to have, a little bit more? Fire Emblem Warriors is a new 3DS exclusive, but that's also because it's using the Hyrule Warriors engine, and Hyrule Warriors ran like crap on the original 3DS. It ran really well on the new 3DS, but you're segmenting a market that's not that big to begin with, and that's very, very dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Philip? Do you think exclusive Scorpio games is the answer?
No, definitely not. It would be a nightmare. It would officially be the end, I think, for Microsoft if they did that. I mean, why not just release the next Xbox then if you're just going to make exclusive games for like a new Xbox? Just call it Xbox, 4 or whatever. I think that they've already come out and said that this is going to be a backwards compatible, or I mean that this console is going to play, like, they're not going to develop for just one or the other. Like, it's going to play both games. All the games will play between both consoles. There'll be parity. And for them to go back on that word now would just be like, we wouldn't take that. I don't think the public would take that. I just don't see that happening. It'd be worse than a red ring, in my opinion.
Sure. Evan, what do you think, Evan? I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, well, I just buy a 1080 instead of a Scorpio. But let's just pretend that you're a mainstream consumer walking in. You get the Scorpio and you realize that there's exclusive games to it. Is that good? Do you think Microsoft should push that?
Well, it's not good from a business standpoint, definitely, especially since it's going to be the Scorpio, which we're already determining isn't going to sell well. And if it's a Scorpio exclusive, who are you going to be playing that game with if it's multiplayer? It's just not going to happen. I don't know, the Scorpio seems weird. The wording of that tweet makes it sound a little off, because I know they showed off that Xbox headset, the HoloLens mixed with whatever else they had.
Yes,
but
the augmented reality.
The big place they showed that off at was like an engineering convention talk almost, where they showed off programs that could run on it to be able to manipulate 3D models of things that need to be built and such. I'm almost feeling like, what if they're just trying to like rebrand it over so that the Xbox One is more of a cheap alternative for a business to purchase, since it's the same hardware, same programs, same drivers, same updates as any of the others. And if your business has it and another business has it, you can utilize that AR function to interact with each other in your projects a little bit easier than having computers that could have some slight variations and issues. Like, what if that's really their goal? Because if it's not just about the game parity and stuff, what if it's just programs? What if there's going to be programs specific to the Scorpio instead that would run? Because why would they show off all those different program functions with the AR helmets if not to interact with something other than just the Windows system? Like, I don't know. It's just all very weird. There's nothing that I enjoy about listening with this Scorpio stuff.
No, you're on the right track there with the VR headset. I think that's the big reason the Scorpio is even showing up, because it still has the same. So people are excited. They're thinking that the Scorpio is going to, now that the parity calls and stuff's being removed from it, it's going to all of a sudden play next generation, if you want to call it next generation level games, but it still has the same CPU. It still has the Jaguar processor, which is it's a laptop processor. It's not a good processor. And Destiny, the developer for Destiny, pretty much threw the Jaguar processor under the bus and said it can't be 60 frames because it's CPU bound with the physics and stuff we're running in game. So the PS4 Pro's GPU is strong enough, but the CPU isn't. But the Scorpio has the same CPU. So how is the Scorpio all of a sudden going to do 60 frames? That's my question there. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that the Scorpio is still hampered by that CPU. It'll do well. It'll still do 4K. I'm sure their games will do 60 frames. So far, all we've seen is Forza, and that already ran well on the Xbox One, the regular Xbox One. So until we see games like, say, Destiny 2 run 60 frames, all of a sudden, then it's worth it. But until then, you're paying $500 for a prettier picture, and then you're trying to sell it to the mainstream consumer who doesn't understand checkerboard pattern between PS4 Pro and a Scorpio. And that's going to be their main competition. It's going to be Scorpio versus PS4 Pro at Christmas time. And, of course, Switch will be over here doing their own thing selling. But it's not going to be easy to sell against an item that's probably at least $150 cheaper. So I don't know.
It doesn't have Super Mario Odyssey on it.
It doesn't have Super Mario Odyssey. Doesn't have Crash Bandicoot on the other side. It doesn't have Persona. It doesn't have what is it? Nier. It doesn't have Neo. Like, the list goes on. It doesn't have Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's a cluster. It's a cluster.
Yeah. But how about you know what? While we're talking about those games, let's shift gears here and talk about the MPD sales for America. Did you guys get a chance to see the list that came out?
I did.
Awesome.
I didn't catch it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Philip has not seen it. Evan, have you seen it?
I don't believe so.
Okay, good. Let me. This is going to be funny actually, because Shawn don't know why it's going to be funny. Let me ask you guys a question. You guys can guess this, okay? What do you think? The first one's easy. What do you think the #1 selling system was for April in America?
The Switch.
Yes, the Switch. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Now going down from there, what do you think the #2 selling item is?
The PS4.
No.
Was it a DS? One of the DS?
No. It was the NES Classic.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the NES Classic outsold the PS4 and the Xbox One in April.
That's insane.
Isn't that
if that
weird?
doesn't show everybody, then I don't know what will. Seriously.
Yes. Yes, it outsold the PS4 and the Xbox One, which is very weird. Now, they did say that they were pretty much unloading all of their stock, just getting rid of it because they're done with it. So, of course, that's going to drive up retail sales. People are just going to rush out and buy it. Obviously, we know the next couple months that the NES Classic won't be anywhere near on the list. It's just funny to see that. So, the Switch sold 280,000 units for the month of April. Now, we know that paired with what was in Japan, which was paired in the rest of the world, the Switch probably sold anywhere between 750,000 to 1 million units in April altogether. So that probably puts it somewhere around like 3.5 to 3.75 million altogether, which is good because that technically for the Switch means that it has now outsold the Xbox One's first 2 months on the market. It does come up shy of the PS4 by about 500,000 because PS4 got to like 4.2. Again, though, holiday months, not dead, March. What do you guys think was the top selling game in April?
Mario Kart.
Okay. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, it should be Mario Kart. I think at that point, nothing really else was impressive.
Okay. Let me keep in mind Mario Kart came out on the 28th, and the MPD ends on the 29th.
Oh, duh.
No, it's probably still that because if it's a digital release in digital markets, people tend to pick it up almost immediately. Let alone the physical release of the pre-orders that you could get.
I just wanted to see if I could sway him. Shawn knows.
Plus, here. To be fair, the numbers that were released on the MPD for Mario Kart Deluxe did not include digital sales.
So I just wanted to see if I could sway them a little bit there.
But it was the #1.
Yeah,
with no digital.
Well, here's the thing. We technically don't know which one was #1 because I have a feeling Mario Kart and Persona were probably right there with neck and neck with each other, but we don't know what digital sales were.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was Mario Kart and then it was Persona, as far as they can tell with physical sales right now. Mm-hmm. But of course, without digital, you don't know the whole picture. But the good news is, yes, Mario Kart's #1. But the surprising thing at this point is Persona has kind of left its niche status at this point, because now it's #2 in April on its launch month in a country that doesn't usually see Persona as like a mainstream game, but it's selling like one now. So what do you guys think about possibly Persona pretty much becoming a mainstream game? Persona 6 comes out. Most people now in America are going to probably buy it, much like they did with Persona 5.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that Persona is like totally crossed over into the mainstream at this point. I think a lot of people, most people who play video games very avidly probably have heard about Persona, especially if you have like a PS4, if you game on that primarily. I mean, it's become the legendary game on the PS Vita itself. Like Persona 4 Golden is one of the best Vita games you can get. And so I think that, that helped boost that series a lot, especially in this country. And so now having, it built up a lot of hype for 5. A lot of people are playing Persona for the first time, 5 being their first one, and then playing it on a console coming from the Vita version too. And then a lot of people saying like, oh, I would just love to see it on a handheld console. I think that's hilarious. But
I was playing it on the PS4 and I was like, man, this would do really well on the Switch.
Yeah. It's funny how it comes full circle, man.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what I think. I'm gonna stop there.
Oh, okay. I mean, Evan has to be happy about this because Evan, you've been a JRPG fan for a while, and to see a game like
it always depends on the JRPG because they have just as much garbage over there as we do of any of our games. But there are always the unique ones like Persona, Disgaea, and all them that it always feels better to play those. But it's good. I mean, it's worked its way into our collective conscious as gamers because I had an animated series. They really pushed it in a lot of like visual ways with a lot of the artwork and the advertising they do that seems to trickle its way over here more than most other games that they release. So it's definitely been working its way up into the mainstream, and it seems to have hit that stride. Hopefully they don't screw up, but they seem to have the whole idea down pat for what they want to do every time.
Sure. Yeah. But Mario Kart ended up selling just about 500,000 units in its 2 days on the market. So yes, it did really well. It did really well.
Master, right?
Like, yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah. So that goes to show you the power of Nintendo, people. It's insane.
Nintendo's strong, man. Nintendo's strong. Shawn, are you excited about Persona 5 becoming more of a mainstream game now?
Yeah, I mean, I like that JRPGs are starting, it's not just Final Fantasy games, there's other games that are starting to become, after years and years and years, are starting to become, mainstream sort of games. So yeah, I'm all for it. It gives a better variety for gamers. So yeah, I'm totally cool with it.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, it definitely gives more variety. Absolutely. So we had that down the list. We also had Zelda Breath of the Wild still held strong at number 3. So Mario Kart, Persona, Zelda, MLB, of course, because baseball season. Down from there, GTA 5 still number 6, which means GTA 5 is pretty much never going away. And then Mass Effect came in at 7. But if we go down from there, at the bottom, number 10 is Call of Duty Black Ops 2. The one from 2012, yes, for the 360 version, which really shows that backwards compatibility still has a place in the video game marketplace, really. I mean, people still buy backwards compatible games, and believe it or not, that was number 10. Number 11 was Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. So Black Ops 2 outsold Infinite Warfare in April. From what I can tell on the Xbox One's digital marketplace, I don't know how they would have tracked that physically, so that has to just be straight up digital. So that's pretty insane because that shows that most gamers still like buying older games. And do you guys think that really Microsoft did the right thing here with backwards compatibility? And I feel like these other companies should really look into backwards compatibility.
Yeah, I love backwards compatibility. I understand why it's not on the Switch, obviously because of the, how unique the Wii U was. But, like that's one of my biggest problems with my PS4 is like I had to play all my other PlayStation games. I had to buy a backwards compatible PS3. And so that's what I have in my living room right next to my PS4. So I can play all those old games, all those old discs that I have from 1 to 3, and then still play on PS4. Like PS4's backwards compatibility is crap. It's crap. I don't like the PS3 whatever PS Now, I think it's called, where you rent the games and then you stream them. No, it doesn't work for me like that. I don't like that. Just let me play a freaking disc. Let me download a whole game. So yeah, Xbox, that's one thing that they're doing much better than PlayStation this generation is backwards compatibility, because the PS4 is crap.
Yeah, I really like Microsoft's approach with backwards compatibility. I think that they understand that importance a little better than Sony does. But I also think that it's because they learned a lot from Sony's mistakes too. Like, I think it was so silly for them to take backwards compatibility out of the PS3, because they initially launched it as a backwards compatible system with the PS2, and that's the one that I have. That's the PS3 that I have, is the backwards compatible one. So I never had any like issues with that, and it still works, which is awesome. But yeah, I agree with you too, Shawn. Like PS Now, it was exciting. I was super into the whole concept of it, but then realistically, like once you actually were working with it, it's not as ideal as playing something back on the disc, you know what I mean? Or as a digital download. So I think that Microsoft is smart, and I want to see that library grow of backwards compatibility games. Like I want to see all of those games become eventually backwards compatible, and maybe we'll see more of it happening with Scorpio too. Maybe they'll go the other direction instead of making exclusive games. So
they should think about bringing that original Xbox library back. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Evan, what do you think about the backwards compatibility, man? You think that's a moneymaker?
Well, I mean, if it's backwards compatible, not necessarily. If you have the games already, then there you have the backwards compatible system. You can just play. That was always the thing we talked about. It's kind of a way to not really make money, but it's more of the company being friendly with the community to be more of like, I guess, less of a business, because a business would look at it from the standpoint of, well, all we can do, we can just repackage these games and sell it to someone. We can make more money that way, right?
Well, in this case, Microsoft, like what they did was they made Black Ops 2 backwards compatible, but then they also added a button so you can buy it from them for like $30.
Yeah, so they're finding functions around it. I feel like Xbox's backwards compatibility came when everyone was looking at their system as just a horrible anti-gamer release, because that was when everyone was like, there's going to be no disk drive there, but they eventually put it back in, that you had to have it online at all times. That was back when those were the rules for it, before they switched it up for people and they tried to seem a little less like, we are the big conglomerate and you have to listen to us and buy stuff our way. And then they moved it back to like oh, you guys are the gamers who hand us the money. We're sorry. Take this quickly. And then to try to outdo the other companies, they're like, oh, these companies aren't doing backwards compatibility. We can. And we saw as they released, like it was usually 5 titles no one cared about, then 1 or 2 that people were like, oh yeah, I remember that and I want to play that. And then they kept doing it every cycle. They would release 3 or 4 games no one cared about, and then the 1 or 2 games everyone wanted. And then with that game release, I mean, it's just the same cycle forward. So it's good for gamers, definitely. Bad for the companies doing it, because as we're talking about with Microsoft's gaming division being a huge burden, this is taking programmers time to put this into their system to allow this to happen. Those people are getting paid to do something you're doing for free. It's not a moneymaker at all.
Yeah, it was tough actually. I remember they had a hard time with multi-disc games. So if a game came on a couple different ones, it was such a pain for them to do it. They got it figured out, but it was not easy. And now they're coming out with something called Games Pass, which is like almost like a Netflix of games for them, where they put older games, but they'll allow you to download the game. You won't have to stream it, much like Shawn was talking about. You get to just download the game. Now I can't imagine it's going to work without newer games, but some people might pay like $10 a month just to down any of the older games they may have missed. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like Red Dead Redemption shows up on there, the 360 version on there, and you can download it and play it. What do you guys think about this Games Pass thing that they've been talking about for a while?
I think that'd be awesome if it was just included with Live. I know that's too good to be true,
Yeah,
but
not happening.
I know, but still, it could totally like combat Nintendo's like free game rental thing. But you know, Xbox is already giving away 2 games a month, so they don't need to do that.
Yeah, what's interesting is they might even be able to charge PC gamers $10 a month for that, which is interesting. So that actually might be something that shows up on Windows, and it might start getting PC gamers used to paying Microsoft money every month. And then, I hate to say it, maybe somehow Microsoft worms their way in with an Xbox Live charge at some point to PC gamers, which is weird because that's the big thing that PCs have had over consoles for the past 10 years now. You haven't had to pay for online.
Yeah, but that's only going to be for the games, for Windows games, most likely. So it'll probably cut their user base down by at least 25% of people who are just like, nope, I got other games I can play. But until every company does it all at once, those guys won't come back. So they might do it, but it might backfire on them even further.
Does it sound a little better to you, Shawn? Something you can just download the games and play them locally?
Yeah, I mean, that would be better, because that's the whole streaming thing. Just, I don't know, it never worked well for me either. So that would be cool still, but I mean, just let me play my discs, man.
Oh, I should say that. When was the last time you played PlayStation Now? Has it been a while?
Yeah, it has.
Okay.
It has.
They've changed it up a little bit. One thing is you can play it on your computer now.
Right, I know that.
Okay. And now they have it so you don't it's monthly, so you don't have to rent every single game. You pay a certain amount and then you just go and there's a big library in front of you.
Okay, that's cool.
So they made it a little different. I know what you're saying though. At one point it was like $8 to rent it for, what was it, like 12 hours or something like that.
It was crazy. It was nuts.
Insane. Yeah, it was so expensive. But they fixed that at least now. So it's worth it. But I did play it a few weeks ago, and the lag was still kind of bad. Like they had Street Fighter 4 on there, Ultra Street Fighter 4, and I played it, and I went into training mode, and you can discernibly see me hit the button, and then he punches. So you're not playing Street Fighter on it.
Well, yeah, that was actually when I tried my free trial of it. That was a game that I played, and it was so laggy, and I was like, okay, no, I don't like this. Get it away.
They do have Red Dead Redemption on there though.
Nice. That's pretty
Yes.
cool.
Play right on your PC, actually. So it was interesting to see that, but it's almost like it really is going towards that services type game that they seem to want to push. They want to make it so that you have to pay them X amount of dollars that's guaranteed every month, and they can charge a certain amount of people that. I honestly think if Xbox Live was not around and they were not getting money, Microsoft would right now. They just wouldn't care. But it's interesting because Phil Spencer even talks about how service-based games are the future, where you don't make big single-player games anymore. I know all of you guys saw that, right, where he talked about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, our single-player games are like archaic, and they're like the way of the past now, and we need to get out of the way because service-based games where they can sell you a $6 game and then hit you with an avalanche of DLC down the road, recurring DLC, and then end up getting like $150 from you when it's all said and done, which is that seems discouraging, seems disheartening as a gamer.
No, I mean, he's right. You know, like the new Zelda game, obviously, you know, bombed terribly. So I really think, you know, and Persona, and no one's buying, you know, Persona.
Horizon Zero Dawn, right? I mean, any of these
Horizon,
games like that,
none of these
Four
games.
single-player games. Yeah.
He's totally right, and that's why Microsoft is in the position they're in right now in the gaming world.
They seem kind of out of touch, but they also seem to be kind of looking towards the future at the same time. It's very weird. They're not at all in the present, if that makes sense. They're in the past, and then they're trying to look to the future at the same time. And it's almost like they're not worried about what's happening right this instant. So it's the weirdest thing.
It's I don't know what the hell they're doing.
So I'll be I don't know. It's tough. Let's talk a little bit, Shawn. I wanted to get your take on one thing real quick because I know you're a big fan of retro games. Did you see the new? I think it's out the 23rd. The new NES that's coming out by Hyperkin that has the HDMI out on it.
Yes, the Retron HD, I believe it's called.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What do you think about that thing?
It's interesting. Suppose there's different levels of quality. Like I own a ridiculous amount of NES systems as far as like new NES systems. There's one out by Gamers Tech, which is priced similar to that. That is HDMI out. That it was pretty good. They're saying that it is hardware based more so than emulation based, which I find interesting because the Retron 5 is all emulation based. I think at $40, it'll probably be pretty decent. I'm gonna buy one just to review it pretty much because I have a bad tendency of buying these things. I don't think it'll be as, you know, good as something like the Retro USB AVS, which is, in my opinion, the king of NES systems. But it is interesting. It is cool. I don't like the marketing of it though. Like, oh, you don't need an NES Classic anymore because of this, and it's like, well, an NES Classic has the games built into it, and you don't need the cartridges. So your point is kind of stupid. But yeah, it's cool. It's interesting. I think it'll sell pretty decent, and yeah, I'm buying one.
Yeah, how much Retro AVS is expensive, right? It's like almost $200.
Yeah, it's $185, but like, dude, it's so good. I played the analog NT Mini, which is almost $500, and I mean, I actually had a viewer send it to me to review because he just wanted my thoughts on it. Beautiful system, definitely, you know, high quality, but it's I would take the AVS every other day of the week. It's got, you know, built-in Game Genie. It's got online leaderboards, which is actually really cool. You connect it to your computer and you can upload onto an online scoreboard through Nintendo Age. And I mean, just the compatibility is flawless. The games look absolutely amazing. So I mean, if you're a big NES fan, like that's what you got to get. If you're more just like a casual person, and you know, you just have, you know, a handful of NES games, then yeah, you know, something like the Retron HD or the 8-bit HD entertainment system from Gamers Tech, you know, those $30-$40 things are probably, you know, they'll suit your needs. But I am interested in it. I want to see how it holds up. Okay,
very good. So we've talked about quite a few things tonight. We're gonna probably get into viewer questions before we wrap up around 11 o'clock. But let me talk to you guys real quick about this. We should see their online service, we assume, at E3, right? I mean, that has to be something we see, because following that, we would have to be beta testing it and then eventually paying for it. Let me ask you guys, what do you want to see from their online service?
I want to see some sort of party system. I want to see like friend invitations. I want to see messages, the ability to send messages. I just want to see basically what we all expect out of a modern day online console gaming service. Just the ability to communicate with your friends would be very nice. And the ability to willingly or like, you know, optionally play with each other would be nice too. So those are my biggest things. Also, I don't think that they're going to make any big changes on their like game rental service, or they're going to be announcing that they're going to be giving away any games or anything like that. I don't think the price is going to change. I think all that stuff is going to stay the same, but I would love to see like that stuff sort of finally being fleshed out as far as like the playing with friends and connecting, because obviously Splatoon 2 and ARMS are huge online games, and we're going to want to see how like their service is going to make those games, those experiences even better, you know? So
okay, yeah. Let me jump over. Shawn, what do you want to see from Nintendo with your online service?
I wish I could talk. One of the things I would like to see, honestly, I'm most interested in the price point. I think the price point could make or break it, because obviously price point is going to, I would assume, indicate what features we're going to see. Just it doesn't have to be, you know, super robust and whatever. Make it cheap, make it good. You know, have, you know, where I can talk to friends in a lobby. Have, you know, I don't know what they're doing with this mobile app thing, but also have something through the system. Like obviously the feedback has been pretty negative if you're going to have to use a mobile app to run everything. Just make it simple, clean, make it essentially like the system, simple and clean. Like it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. But don't make it overpriced if you're going to skimp on features. So I don't know. And I'm very interested to see, you know, how the virtual console plays into it. You know, they said that there's going to be some sort of multiplayer for certain, you know, NES and Super NES games. Super NES, I understand. NES, not so much. Like, you played like Double Dragon 2 or Battletoads or something on it. I don't know. So just make it simple, make it clean, and make it priced good. Don't try to compete with PlayStation and Microsoft, because that's not your game. Just have the basic features and be cheap.
Sure. Yeah, that's all you need to do, right? Keep it as streamlined as possible, as quick and snappy as possible. Because the Switch's biggest advantage right now is that you can turn it on and start playing in seriously like 10 to 15 seconds. It's pretty ridiculous. And if you get up through all that, you're moving real quick, and then all of a sudden it's super slow to get online, and then it's super slow to do like anything through their mobile app that you have to bring along a phone for. I think it kind of falls apart there. Like you said, keep it like a closed environment. Evan, what do you think about this Nintendo online service? What do you think they have to do?
Yeah, it's basically already been said. I think I talked to R. Potter about this on one of my streams, but it does come down to moving away from the friend code and kind of entering the modern society of how that works, and definitely cheap, because with the Switch, I mean, I definitely don't think it should have to be this like big thing, because even though it's not like just a kids system, I'm pretty sure for holidays and that type of stuff, a lot of kids are probably going to be getting it, and I'm pretty sure the parents don't want to have to pay like an extra huge amount every month afterwards. But as long as you're getting the core gameplay that everyone deserves at this point, you know, a proper friends list, the interconnectivity between games to be able to go with your friends list into any of them and be able to pick those people into them just easily, anything like that, just be perfect. Because really that's what it comes down to, is making sure the community can interact properly without having to jump through hoops of leaving your friend code on a forum somewhere just so you can get some friends.
Right. Make it easy. Make it easy to send a friend request when you're done with like a game. Like Splatoon comes out.
Like almost every system has the who you played with last function. Like, well,
sure.
Come on, bring that in.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. Or if you're looking at the breakdown of the leaderboards for Splatoon at the end of a match, you can just hit someone's name and then say, you know, send friend request.
Yeah, it's annoying that like some online games like Mario Kart has that who you played with last built into it, but the system itself doesn't have that built into it. So like once they have that sort of feature where you can check that stuff, like that's going to be genius.
That should be a system level thing. You should log in and then you can see what all your friends are playing in front of you, and then you just hit join game, you know?
Yeah, because that's the best form of advertisement, is when you got a friend list with like 20 people who you like playing games with, all playing a game you were maybe thinking about not picking up, but now you see they're playing it, and you got the eShop right there. You just pick it right up right then.
Yeah,
hop in with them, and that's how it really should work. But like, I don't know, their approach to always being like, let's try to avoid the toxic nature of the internet and trolls by preventing people from interacting. For the most part, it doesn't work when all you can do is just have the function built in to be like automatically decline friend requests if you want to be antisocial, and then just move on from there.
I'll tell you why it doesn't work. It's because like 80% of trolls are like 8 to 9-year-old kids. So that's why it doesn't work, because most of those kids obviously are playing on different systems, including the Nintendo console. So even if you try to age gate it, the people you're trying to keep out that are under 13 are still going to play, and they're still going to be trolls. But that's interesting. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like there were a lot of good points made where price, if it's $20 a year, that's much better than if it's like $50 a year. Even though it's only $30, that's still a big deal to people to pay that up front. Despite you dividing it in a month, it's not a lot. But really, if it comes down to system level performance and really compatibility, where like Philip's saying, every game should be basically system level. You kind of see what everyone's playing, and then you can decide who you want to join or who you want to send a friend request to. They should be able to jump out of a game and then jump into a game with you, even if it's different, a lot easier. So it's interesting because Nintendo has never really, that's the one thing they've really struggled to grasp, is their online service. And it still amazes me because we're in 2017. I feel like at this point you should have that figured out. And it's amazed me that I had, what we're talking about right now, guys, is the experience I had on my original Xbox, a while ago. So it's interesting to me, or even the 360 when it first came out. So it is amazing that Nintendo has been kind of dragging their feet with this online stuff. So hopefully they get it figured out. Hopefully E3 they show it off. Hopefully they show the virtual console. Speaking of which game would you guys want to see above all come to the virtual console right away?
Shenmue.
Okay.
Here's the thing about the virtual console to me. I don't care. Like, I've played all these games when they came out. I own all these games now. I played them all on the Wii. I played them all on the Wii U. I've been loving the Neo Geo stuff. Like, that's been amazing on the Switch. It's like, yes, games that I'm not super familiar with at a cheap price that are retro. This is perfect. I don't want to, spend, $5-10 to play Super Mario Brothers again. Give me something different. Give me a different system. Give me a unique system. Like the Wii, I get on a rant about virtual console stuff. The Wii's virtual console was so much better than the Wii U's. Like, there were so many more systems. There was Game Gear and arcade games and, import only games. And then the Wii U's was so paltry. Go back to the Wii's style of system and add more systems in. Do something with Sega. Like, if you start putting Saturn games and freaking Dreamcast games, I can't imagine it would be that difficult to run a Dreamcast game. I mean, the discs aren't that big. You do something like that, that's a game changer, man. Oh my God. So I just try to do something different with it. Don't just do the same old, same old. It's boring now.
Dreamcast Virtual Console would be insane on the Switch. That would be crazy to have that in a library of games, or at least some of the best, games from that library, like Power Stone. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think that's a great idea. I think that,
definitely adding more consoles to it, different ones that we probably haven't seen, the Neo Geo Pocket and stuff like that. That'd be really fun to play around with. But I think SNES 9X did it for PC emulation, the ability to actually link to people through IP to be able to play multiplayer across an emulator over the internet. Like, can't they just functionally build that in as standard now at this point? Because you said they're tying it in with their online. Like, why is that not do we not imagine that to be why they're doing it that way? Because now they have some functional way for you to possibly get into a lobby and maybe select, I want to play a Neo Geo game with someone or something along those lines. And the next thing you know, you're playing Last Blade with a guy from across the country.
That would be cool.
Or even something like adding in a Mario Kart 64 and have, online races and online battle mode. Like, that would be dope as hell.
Yeah, lobby systems.
Yeah. And that would only be available on the Switch. I mean, that I think could be very attractive to some gamers as well, who are on the fence about the system.
It would be cool if Nintendo came out during E3 and just said like, okay, you guys have been asking for like a Smash Brothers game. It's like, well, here's a virtual console and here's every single Smash. You can play it now on your Switch, like, you know, whatever you want, just take your pick. Or if they just unloaded a bunch of games like that you could play online. And I did think, didn't they say that like most or like all of the virtual console games are going to be online multiplayer, like even the NES ones?
See, they said something about it, but they never elaborated, and like their comment was kind of weird to begin with. The way I understood it was like they were going to cycle out like an NES and a Super NES game that you play for free via the pay service, and then it'll have something like online features. But I don't know. Like that's, but once again, going back to the original Wii Virtual Console, there were Capcom released Super Street Fighter or the Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Wii Virtual Console, the Super Nintendo version, and included a very bare bones but functional online mode. And you could play that game online. You could either play it with a random or a friend via a friend code. Where was that on the Wii U?
I take it you're not a fan of the Wii U's Virtual Console.
I liked it, but it was disappointing. It was just very disappointing because I felt the strongest thing about the Wii was its Virtual Console and its eShop. There was so much, the Rebirth series, Castlevania Rebirth and all that stuff, amazing stuff. And then I was like, yes, they're going to do so much more with this system. And then they gave me some DS games and I was like, eh.
What do you think about GameCube possibly making it over?
I think there's a good chance.
Yeah, I hope it happens. I would like to play some GameCube games on there.
It probably won't be first. I imagine they're going to want to put out the re-releases of some of the Wii U stuff, the Smash Brothers games and all that, before finally being like, oh, by the way, here's, Melee and Brawl on the Virtual Console stuff with online functionality. So
yeah,
it might happen.
Man, give us like Sunshine. All right, Sunshine, man.
Yeah.
How do you think they'll handle that controller issue though, with like the analog stick pressure sensitivity, or not analog stick, but analog trigger?
That's tough. Some people are saying, get it use the adapter for the GameCube, but then you're not going to be able to move easily with a GameCube controller attached to it.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I don't know.
They'll
It's
figure
weird.
something out. They have a plan. Yeah.
I think they'll have a workaround for it.
New Joy-Cons with GameCube style.
That would be the ideal plan. I will gladly pay money for that plan.
Yeah.
They really need to do more with this Joy-Con crap, because for everyone that was complaining about how expensive they were, oh, it's so expensive to get another set, people are buying these like crazy. You need to go overboard. You need to have 1 million different colors. You need to have, limited edition Joy-Cons and stuff. Just roll with it, man.
Well,
Just
beyond
roll with
that, since they're detachable and slidable, just different feels, different styles, different like overall, not just the two little kind of corner things. But what if you had ones with the little palm rest type stuff that you got on like the old school PS2 controllers and such, like just the little down arcs? Because I know for the Wii with the classic controller, originally it was just a Super Nintendo form factor, but then Monster Hunter landed and it added those two little nubs on the bottom so it rests in your hands better. So like, why not just keep going forward with form factors?
It would just eliminate the need for like bad accessories like grips or something like that don't really work too well. You know what I mean? Like if you had Joy-Cons that you could slide on and fitted like to your hands, like these are my Joy-Cons. I prefer these Joy-Cons over the other 10 options available or 20 options available. I think a lot more people would be more enticed to play more games on the Switch if it was that customizable.
I think that's a good idea to get some Joy-Cons in there, man. Everyone's buying them even though they're $80 for a pair. But really, if you look at some control, like people complain about it, but the Xbox One controller, you have to buy if you want the full deal, you want the, let's say you want the rechargeable battery packs, that's an extra $25. Technically, an Xbox One controller is $85.
Yeah.
So it's easy to complain about them, but really the Joy-Cons together are fine. $80, basically 40 a piece for the technologists in them. It's really not that bad, especially when they broke it down and kind of figured everything out. It actually costs them a fair bit of money to make them. So I think it's kind of a moot point to say that they're not worth it. So let's move to take questions from the chat for the last 15 minutes or so before we wrap up. Yes, the Xbox Elite controller was $150. You're absolutely right. That's very expensive. Let's see. Do I think Xbox games will be okay? So you could probably buy games on the Windows that are Xbox, like this person's saying in the stream of your Switch, so you can play Xbox, or you could use PlayStation Now and play PlayStation games on your Switch with Rainway.
Yeah, it's more down to the devs figuring out how to access that on your computer. That's all it is. It's not so much Microsoft trying to deny it.
Someone's asking about. All right, so I saw this was on Twitter, Shawn, about the NBA Playgrounds not having online play.
Yeah, it's very annoying. If like I haven't done the review on Nintendo Enthusiast yet because they said it would be a couple days before the online went on. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I did a video on RGT, and I really liked the game. I think the game is very fun, but I didn't want to review it because to me, a game in this style, one of the big aspects of it, of course, is multiplayer and playing with other people. I want to make sure the online servers are good. I want to see how they function, if there's friend stuff, how it works. And, the developer said it would be a few days, their own words, after launch when the online servers will be up. Well, now we're like 2 weeks plus out, and we still don't have online servers. So I don't really know what's going on with that, but I don't like it. But in the same breath, I do sort of understand it because honestly, if you think games like this and Snake Pass weren't, last minute ports, you're pretty foolish. That's why on the tablet mode, it doesn't look nearly as good. And there's a dramatic decrease because there were rushed ports. I mean, that's okay. They wanted to get the game out on the system. I understand why they did it, but I don't know. I am sort of losing my patience with it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it still doesn't have online. That's amazing. Like that feels like a core feature, right, for the game. I mean, it's NBA Jam. You want to play against other people, you should be able to online.
Right.
It's weird.
I got a review copy for that game, and they said in their email to me that it'll be out in a few days, and that was almost 2 weeks ago or something. And it's been a while because it is annoying. I love that game. I did all the tournaments, and I cannot wait to start playing online, but it's not there yet. So hopefully it opens up soon because I think that game is great. It's a lot of fun.
Dude, I went to a real basketball court.
Yeah.
About that game,
man.
Come
video juegos.
Yeah. I dunked that basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting. There's been a lot of this in the chat tonight. So there was this weird rumor that came out that talked about how Sony may be working on their next PlayStation Portable, the PSP3 it's been dubbed. Do you guys really think it makes sense for Sony to attempt the handheld market again?
God, no. First off, the whole rumor was based from a website that has no credence or credibility, but it makes a good story, so everybody ran with it. No, Sony is beyond done because every time the PSP was good, it sold good, not compared to the DS, but it sold good for what it was. Vita, same sort of thing, but they always just miss the mark just a little bit, and it's not worth it. I mean, how long has the Vita been essentially dead? When was the last first party game on it? It's all third party games that are coming out on it. A lot of great JRPGs and stuff like that, but the Vita has essentially been forgotten about by Sony. So no, they're not going to return to handhelds anytime soon, and definitely not with that hideous mock-up that
it was a very, very ugly looking system. Yes, you're absolutely right. I looked at that and I said, "Oh no, that looks really." It looked like an iPad with the cover just permanently attached to it.
Yeah,
I don't get that one. And then what do you think, Philip?
I don't know, especially if it's called a PSP3, for them to go back to the PlayStation Portable line. I feel like that would almost be a step backwards, especially because the Vita itself was so much more, I feel loved. I know both of them were, very much loved.
The PSP was loved for the wrong reason.
yeah, because everyone hacked the crap out of it.
I mean,
myself included.
They sold 80 million units of the PSP, which is great. But the problem was the DS on the other side of the fence sold 150.
Right.
But what were you saying? Go ahead. I'd say they both were loved. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that for them to go back into that direction, to the PSP itself, would be that's just not going to happen. And that right there defuncts the whole concept of this theory to me, or this rumor or whatever. But I do think that it is possible. I think that definitely not anytime soon, but I do think that it's possible for them to step back into the handheld game, especially depending on how much Nintendo influences like pop culture at this point with the Switch. So if everyone's like, hey, you know, screw home consoles, like we're all gaming on our Switch in like a year, which I know that's like not likely, but still they influenced a lot with the Wii and motion controls. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do here with this, like, you know, portability aspect, and maybe Sony's crazy enough to jump in there once again. And I think if any company's crazy enough to do it, it's Sony. So that's just my opinion.
What are you thinking, Evan?
I mean, maybe they can insure themselves against the loss. Like,
right? Yeah.
It's not a good idea, I guess, unless they've maybe gutted whoever was part of that group that made the Vita and kind of forced everyone to focus on the aspects of it that weren't that amazing. The touch function on the back that you had to use to climb around in the Uncharted game that came out, like you had to use all the different touch functions. That was important for some reason. If they just focused on the gameplay, it probably would have been far superior. And it sucks because there were a lot of really good games that came out on it that didn't get as much life as they should have, which are getting moved to the current consoles now, which is nice. But I don't know. It's definitely not a great idea anytime soon. Especially not going back to probably the PSP line, unless it's just going to be a title and maybe they do adjust things for the more modern concept of what a handheld can be. But at the same time, the games that I think of when I think PSP, every single one of them, I feel like those companies have moved on to the more like full robust systems. And I don't know if they're going to want to be told to like, oh, could you downscale this heavily to work on a straight up handheld? Like, I don't know if they're going to want to do that anymore.
Well, it's interesting because they would have to, if they showed up to handhelds, they would have to bring along probably AMD, and AMD is currently working on their next basically system on a chip, much like say the X1. They're working on Raven Ridge, and it's basically codenamed right now that it's going to have Ryzen CPU, Vega GPU on a chip. It's still not ready. We're still waiting for Vega GPUs as it is, but that was just kind of talked about 2 days ago with Raven Ridge, where they're trying to get these things out by the end of the year. And it seems to be slow going with this. But if they showed up with better visuals, that's exactly what happened between the Vita and the 3DS. The Vita was a good bit more powerful than 3DS, but it didn't matter because Nintendo had the games. So I'm not really sure what they think they're going to show up with a stronger system than the Switch, because they don't have Pokemon, they don't have Mario, they don't have Zelda. I don't know what they show up with. Do they get Spyro or Crash? Or those don't have the same power that they used to back in the day. And realistically, Sony, while they have good games that are specific to their systems, they don't have, I guess, the IPs, of course, that Nintendo can just throw on their handhelds whenever they want. I don't think a game like Horizon Zero Dawn would actually sell that handheld very well. And I don't see why they would spend the money on the handheld. It really doesn't make sense, not with how well things are going with the PS4. You really don't want to invest in a whole new market when you're showing your investors and your shareholders just how well you're doing, and then everything around you, your mobile phones, your tablets, everything else is terrible. But the PS4 is good, so why would you make another division that could potentially be terrible? I mean, there's a lot of other handhelds that people forget about that Sony tried, like the Xperia. Oh gosh, that thing tanked horribly, and it was a cell phone and a game device.
N-Gage 2.0.
Yeah, like people forget about that. That's how bad that was. Like, why would they continue trying to plug away at a market that they've lost at this point? It makes no sense.
That's true. I mean, they've proven to be incredibly successful at like home console experiences. They're the #1 as far as like, you know, total sales is concerned this generation. So for them to just be like, well, I mean, maybe we can dip back into the handheld market and just risk losing all of this or abandon losing all of this. Like, it just doesn't make any sense for them to do that while they're doing so well. So unless we start seeing like a massive decline in PS4 sales or like a heavy lack of interest in the PS5, then I don't really think that Sony's going to be like, oh, we need to jump back into handheld. Of course, I think that they're always testing stuff. There's always stuff going through R&D. They're always ready to kind of like open new projects up. I think that's true for a lot of these big companies. But as far as like the near future is concerned, I don't think we'll see it soon.
They did have the president of Sony at the Nintendo event in Tokyo taking pictures, though. So there's that.
There you go.
Did you guys see that when that came out? That was pretty funny. He was there taking like pictures with his phone of all the different posters and everything for Nintendo. But he does have a Switch. It's really funny. A lot of people will fight over these things like fans, but then you see someone like Phil Spencer sitting on a plane playing a Switch, or you see like President like Reggie playing a PS4. Like to them it's all business. To them, all of us are just walking dollar signs. So
Yeah,
it's funny.
Phil Spencer like tweeted out a tweet or retweeted a tweet saying, "Go buy Minecraft on Switch."
Yeah, they don't care. That's their IP. They don't care. They just want money, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I don't. At this point, Sony is in a good place. Why ruin it? You know, why try to fix something that's not broken? So I don't know why they would try to delve into handheld gaming, or I don't even know how they would explain that to their investors in the first place. When at this point, older investors or who are, you know, suits that put the money in, they won't see the difference between a handheld device like a PSP3 and their latest cell phone they're trying to sell. They just won't see it. So makes sense. Stay away from that. Do what you're doing well, which is PS4 games, and I guess trying to push VR along, because that's got to be expensive too. Let's see. We got time for at least one other question before we wrap up. So just shout one out if anybody sees anything good. That's right. Yeah, the Sony CEO did say the Wii U was his favorite non-Sony console. He had to throw non-Sony in there, but yeah. Just because I think he said that his family liked to play it a lot with him. So. Yeah. Some people show up at the very end.
Yeah, we're all looking through the chat right now, trying to find a good one to end the show with. Let's see.
Oh, and if anybody's going to too many games, we'll all pretty much be there. Everyone you're seeing right now will be there. So feel free to come up and say hi to any of us. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you guys out there. So I know it's a really big popular show. It's going to be my first year going, so hopefully Spawnwave is going to be showing me the ropes of the many games.
Oh, it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. We're probably going to get like a room where we can do a live podcast also while we're there.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. So hopefully you guys can check that out.
Oh yeah, I forgot it. Yeah, Hey Jay he's going too. Yeah, that's right.
We're splitting a hotel room together.
Are you?
Yeah.
Probably could have just paid for a chunk of John's, because I know we're only using it for the day.
Well, I think Philip's going to use it too.
All right.
I think someone might as well use it.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
In my underwear constantly, just always in my underwear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hotel room. What do you do?
Walking around the convention in underwear, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, here's one we didn't talk about, and someone's asking. Did you guys see the stuff for Sonic Forces?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, is this it? Do you guys think this is actually going to be a good Sonic game now?
No.
Okay, so you're on the fence of no, this is good. Why do you think it's not going to be good?
They're already starting out with the cheesy crap, and we hardly know anything about the game. Like this is their big thing. You can create your own OC Sonic, because there's not a lot of weird Sonic people in the world who make weird Sonics. Like no, like the Sonic
Unleash your persona. Yeah.
Yeah, like the other one, Sonic Mania, I think it's called, the 2D one. I'm excited about that one. I could care less about this Project Sonic. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the character customization. Like, I think that's kind of interesting. I think that Sega's trying to do anything they can to save the franchise, which is smart, you know, because Sonic is such a beloved franchise. So I grew up loving it, and I hope that this one is the one that brings it back. You know, I really hope. But at the same time, what Shawn said is totally accurate. You know, like it's hard to believe that, you know, this might be the one to do it, because there's so much that is just still up in the air. And I personally don't know how I feel about the whole switching between the 2D and 3D perspectives. Like, I'd rather just kind of stick to one thing, to tell you the truth. But we'll see. I don't know. I mean, that game's always been about like speed runs and stuff like that. So I'd love to see that community blossom over it.
What do you think, Evan? Did you get a chance to see so you can create your own hedgehogs now in it?
I've never really cared at this point.
I know you don't.
Every time a Sonic game comes up, I'm like, the moment I see the title, I'm like, I can't wait to see the angry forum posts. It's gonna be fantastic because that's all it ends up being is just, oh, it's not like the classic game. And you're asking, is it gonna be a good Sonic? I don't think there's really been a Sonic game really since the classics.
It is weird because like the Sonic community, man, they fight a lot.
Oh, they do. but I don't know who they're trying to appeal to because. I mean, I guess making your own character, sure, it's kind of fun in that way. But what else about the game is interesting from any like is there anything that stood out to you personally from looking at it? Like,
not a lot. It looked like that they're at least giving you some form of depth with your character. Like it looks, I assume you earn stuff and then attach to your character. I assume it's not all like there right away. But it looks like it's going to be the same kind of thing in Generations where it's like 2D, 3D. You have classic Sonic for 2D, and then you have what they call modern Sonic for 3D. And it looks like Sonic. It looks crazy now, though, because you can make any hedgehog you want. What'll be interesting is if they made it so that you could share your hedgehog online. Like you can download them like a Create a Hog or whatever. And you can go online and you can download people's abominations because let's face it, if you give the internet the tools to do this kind of stuff, you're going to get some of the most obscene looking hedgehogs you can imagine. I was there for the wrestling games of the PS2 days when we would do things like make their arms and their legs insanely skinny and their head huge. That's what you're going to see. So,
oh my god, have you seen people's Miis on like Mario Kart and stuff? What people do with that? It's insane. Like some of the Miis that people create are just like nightmarish. So I can't even imagine what a Sonic.
Keep in mind, you're giving these tools to a fan base that is heavy about making crazy looking stuff with Sonic on DeviantArt. What do you think you're gonna see when you log in if the app is there that makes it so you can see everybody in the game, posting stuff up?
Oh man, I don't even want to think about it.
Like they'll probably have to make it so that you go in there and you check either safe for work or not safe for work.
Yeah, right. Sonic rated M for mature.
But well, they'll do the E and then they'll put at the bottom. We're not responsible for the kind of stuff you're about to see online.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man,
they'll have the 10 layers of like accepting or declining as you click. Like I'm gonna play online. It's like, really? Do you want to do it? Are you sure? Read this 100-page thing. Just make sure.
Turn back. There's no turning back now. But no, I think at least it's different. They're doing something different, with the game. I'm actually surprised it's taken them this long to let us create our own hedgehog, but it's something different. But the rest of the game does look very similar. But I guess I'll at least wait to see what's going to happen at E3 with this game. Maybe something crazy happens. They've always been really bad at storytelling in Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't think there's been any good story that I've seen that's really pulled me in with Sonic, as opposed to maybe the Saturday morning cartoons that I would watch when I was younger. But that's about it. Sonic Forces looks okay, but I'm kind of cautiously optimistic, I guess I'll say. So we're a little past 11 o'clock. I guess we'll call it there. It's been about 2 hours or so. So, Shawn, where can they find you, man?
You can find me a lot of places. You can find me at RGT85. I'll say hello in the chat. You can find me there. I'm doing almost daily uploads, if not, and probably every 2 days on there. You can find me on NintendoEnthusiast.com and Nintendo Enthusiast YouTube channel. You can find me on enthusiast.gg. Find me on Twitter at Shawn Long 85. All over the place. You can find me at Too Many Games. I'll be there Friday and Saturday, so it's gonna be a good time.
You're doing a panel, right?
Yep. Saturday from 3:30 to 4:20 in panel room 2. Me and Hey Jay will be doing Nintendo Enthusiast Live. I'm just talking about Nintendo stuff and then just general Q&A for both of us. So it'll be fun.
Cool. Yeah, I guess I'll drop into that panel and check things out, see how that goes. So Philip, where can they find you, man?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Philip Mewson, and you can also just search in YouTube FILIP, and I come up. And you can look at all of my Switch videos in which I make every day. So yeah, there you go.
Very good. Evan, what about you? People were actually asking in the chat where they can find you, dude.
Well, I mean, I'll just There you go. That's me in the chat right now. You can use that name for Twitch. You can Twitter, Instagram, anything. I'm all over the place for that. That's my art channel. It also links to my gaming channel, which is still work in progress. I'm trying to find the next thing I really want to record or focus on until Gigantic actually comes up with more stuff for me to really get excited about. And then, as always, things you'll start seeing around Spawn Wave, the channel art stuff for it, banners, things like that as it happens. That's just me working in the background constantly.
And yeah, so that's everybody there. If you want to watch the entire video cast, maybe you missed some of it, I post the video portion, the full raw uncut version, up on the Patreon page. You can go there. Even $1 gets you the full uncut version. Otherwise, I post the entire audio cut up a little bit from the front to back up on iTunes. So you can go check there, or SoundCloud. You just search for SpawnCast. It'll pop right up, and you can listen to it there. Of course, look out during the week. You'll see SpawnCast shorts pop up. Just to give you an idea of what we're doing here going forward. And I think that's about it. Are you guys good?
Good to go.
Good.
All right. Thanks, guys. This is episode 8. Tune in with us next Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, and we'll do it all again. Until next time, guys, we will see you then.